Hey, welcome back to another episode of I'm Telling You. This is Chef Philly D.
This is Mr. Gemini.
Yeah, welcome again, my friends. We're so glad to have you back, fam. Hope you all are doing well. If not, hopefully you're doing a little bit better. So, yeah, man. What's going on, bro?
Well, I'm just chilling, hanging out in the solid gold studio. We have built our own fort.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know you said that. I love that, right? Because we always kind of joke about like we're recording from our solid gold studio on top of Mount Olympus, and it's like, I was like, but we have a fort though, and you're like, but we're in the golden path. Why would we? I was like, well, because we can do whatever we want. You know, what do I call it? The imagination threshold, right?
Yeah. So the proscenium arch, whatever you want to call it.
You want to get all fancy about it.
Well, that was my reference. That the proscenium arch was kind of like the break between, okay, outside of this is the normal world, and this is the world that we're acting on. This is the stage that we have set.
That kind of goes to that idea of like the Akashic records, right? With the energy, where it's on the other side, where now if you can actually perceive that component, now you can like walk through that door.
Well, in a way, right? Because when you're acting on the stage, I mean, a lot of people would say that they're channeling the character that they're trying to portray. You know, the idea that the term person actually comes from the persona, which
Right.
was the mask that the ancient Greek playwrights would use for getting your voice to get out,
To project
out to the yes,
stumbling for project.
to the outer reaches of the audience, that it had like a megaphone style mouthpiece built onto it, and that
Right. Yeah.
that the mask itself was actually called a persona. And that the character that you were, something about putting on a mask, I mean, is for thousands. I mean, I don't even know. Since the earliest of man, it's always been it's kind of a way to step into something that's something other than you. Like,
well, yeah, even painting your face to cover it. So yeah, just altering it so that
you're maybe channeling, right?
Right. Well, yeah, that's method acting, where you become that person, where you just like for 6 months prior to the role, you just act as if that person, just to become that person, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, dude, I get that. That's kind of.
Yeah, I'm thinking Jim Carrey right now.
The man. Yeah, that would be an appropriate component.
Right, you were gonna say. Go ahead, say it. You were gonna say what? The Man on the Moon?
No. Why you put words in my mouth? What is this?
Yeah, when he got into the characters, he was in the character. Like if he was on set, he was.
Well, yeah, I think that's why he did pretty well with like Andy Warhol. I mean, wasn't Nicholson or Jack Nicholson was I think he was a method actor. I mean, a lot of your better ones were. You know, I think Brando was. I mean, that's like the style, right? I think because you have to be in that mindset, but.
Well, which is kind of a beautiful thing, because you're still kind of. I mean, it's kind of what we've been talking about is that. You know, the persona that you're getting, it's us. Right? I mean, it's us.
Well, it's
like you can't fake that, but it's channeling certain thoughts or certain ideas or trying to be open to.
Well, see, my thing is like whenever we do this, we kind of just we've always talked about we just get out of our own way, right? The conversation, it's like we don't have the conversations come through us. You know, we're just the conduit at this point.
Yeah, which is why I have so much difficulty writing things down ahead of time, because it doesn't feel natural, if you know, and then it would seem like I'm reading from a page. I don't know. It feels more natural this way. It has to be like a.
Well, that's always been the point of our conversations. Is that's that's why I love what we do, because it's just us being us, and we just have conversations, and people enjoy that. I've heard a few times where it's just like I feel like I'm in the conversation with you. Like I just want to pull up a chair. It's like, well, I mean, you can, and we would appreciate that too, because that's what we do. We just want people having conversations, just talking. It doesn't matter what we talk about, just talk. Open up, share, right?
Yeah, and that's I think my idea for tonight is just, or for now, right? I'm using that terminology because we're trying to live in the now, right?
Yeah, the now.
That maybe we could just kind of shoot weird open-ended questions at each other and see what kind of pops from that.
Yeah.
That's as far as I got. I have strange memories from childhood, things that I could just weird, like I can't even explain to this day. Like, would you have something like that? Something that happened to you or something that you perceived that you've always questioned? Like, I'm just saying that specifically because that's what I have.
You know what? But I've never had like a continuous questioning of a thing. I've always just had a continuous questioning. I like to think. I like to see how things work. I like to take stuff apart, whether it's on an emotional, mental, physical. That's why I enjoy like business and psychology and stuff like that. It's why I enjoy having conversations with people, learning their vernacular, learning how they express themselves, the way they think about things. I just like learning. So yeah, no, I don't have anything specific. The core of it is I like to talk to people and see how they think and have a real conversation. That's why I enjoy what we do, because that's what we do. That's
Yeah, and
we do this whether the mics were here or not. We really would.
I was thinking about it today. Actually, I was thinking about it. I think I was washing a dish, and I was like, we don't do small talk. Like, we would start off with that, but like we don't do small talk. Like,
I mean, our small talk is like, when are we hooking up? Like, what are we doing? Like, hey, let's hang out or something. Like, that's that would be our most trivial talk, is to spend more time together to actually talk.
Like, I mean, a lot of the reason why I can't, in some ways, get along with everybody at any time is because I'm not necessarily like I don't do sports. I don't talk about sports. I'm not a fan of any one particular. That's not my thing. Like a lot of the mainstream interests, I'm not necessarily, I'm going back in time in my library. I'm not going forward. I'm not reading current stuff. I'm reading old stuff because that's what interests me, because I think to some extent, and it kind of in my description of what the I'm Telling You show was all about for me, was the weird, the inspirational, the kind of fringe science, the things that kind of keep you up at night when you start thinking about, just whatever. I mean, when you were a little kid, I mean, I don't know how you were. I was so full of questions when I was a little kid. And science was always science and physics stuff was always just so fascinating for me. And, the typical, why is the sky blue? I mean, I've asked it all.
Well, yeah, I mean, I definitely did that myself. So, I mean, that's why I never really had a gnawing question. I just had lots of questions.
But to some extent, and I think that's where this is coming from, is that's never really died off in me. Like, I still feel that, but the problem is my questions have gotten to the point where I can't look to my father anymore. That's why I was telling you, I was like, I want to find a theoretical physicist to see if I could talk to somebody who maybe could explain some of this weird stuff to me, like this fringe science, this,
And I think that's a great piece because that's another thing for us is really the core is it's just the conversation. It's being open and honest and accepting things. I may not know what's right, or I might, or we're willing to accept and think from alternate perspectives. And so to really do the kind of things where I'm all about, like when I get into stuff, it's all about caring for your community and, local supporting, educating, entertaining. So that's the point of what we do. This is, we got to have that. So
trying to make a common ground, trying to show respect to all walks of life. I mean, really, because I don't necessarily have one, genre that I have to fall in.
Well, that's why it's for us to be able to support local and bring on somebody who is an expert of sorts, or, is at least privileged to a certain amount of knowledge to give us light on the subject. Yeah, we would love to have that kind of conversation.
Like what
because that's the point of this, is to conversate, it's to have those conversations that most people aren't, whether it be this day-to-day stuff where it's like we should all just have these kind of regular conversations just to get the communication going, right? Open that avenue. But then that opens it up to have those more in-depth and more honest conversations, the stuff that, we all should be talking about and probably want to talk about, but we're afraid to.
And more, yeah, total, and more than any money that any fame or anything that having a conversation like this would bring, I think the coolest thing that would come from it is more people having conversations like this.
Yeah.
It's just fun. It's like you question everything. Like, I've always done that. Like, certain things happen in your life that you can't make sense of. It's for me, it's in a lot of ways, I don't even know how it is that I'm still breathing. And the beauty of life that it continues on all by itself is just so amazing. And I have many days in a row where I can keep that kind of mood. And that's a glorious thing to be able to keep that in your mind, that like, okay, you have your ups and downs, but overall it's the experience, and it's being close to not having that for a short time reminded me of that.
Yeah, man. You know, appreciation, the yin and the yang of it.
So it's like trying to share that with everybody else, like that the curiosity and the fascination for life doesn't have to end when you get older.
I think it should grow, because you should find ways to be able to have more time to do it and be more inquisitive and more imagination, right? That's how I feel about it.
The argument is I don't always have time. I don't have time for it, or
if it's important, you make the time. That's
well, I mean, maybe that's one of the reasons I personally just don't get into the sports thing, because it just, like, to me it's like, okay, well, I mean that's impressive. I mean, I can watch a play and appreciate it for what it is, whether it's football or tennis, or it doesn't matter to me. I can appreciate it for what it is. The thing, this is probably the best way I could sum it up. The thing that I don't like about it is that in a lot of ways, people are trying to create, they're trying to live through a hero of some sort, vicariously through a hero, instead of kind of being their own hero. So in a way, it's like, it just, I don't know why it's always bothered me, like that you're being this, what do they call it, like armchair coach.
Well, so you know me,
yelling at your screen, and it's like, screaming obscenities, the rest of the families are like,
yeah, I know.
Why is this a thing?
So you know me, I'm all about like inspirational speakers and stuff, and motivation and that kind of capacity, and not to like just stir up money creating, but so Dr. E.T., Dr. Eric Thomas, he's one of those cats where he puts it out for free. He really does. He's all about giving that, love, appreciation, peace, love, harmony, all that stuff. He makes one of these, at least this is what I drew from it, but he makes one of his analogies, or, one of his anecdotes, is that people are out there checking on stats for all these other people. They know about this person, that person, it's like, oh, I got all these stats, all this and that. He's like, what about you? What are your stats? Like, why don't you know your stats? So there's nothing against, being into sports and like doing all that, but you should be more concerned with your own stuff than somebody else's.
That's an interesting thing, because it's making me think, now that you like, just something about the way you were saying all that just makes me think about how often, and I've actually talked to people, that you can kind of see that that's the mentality, that they're making sure that they're watching all these different sports outlets, the Sports Center and all that, to make sure that they stay up to date so that they can stay in the conversation. We don't need that.
Well, but
I'm in conversation mode all the time. So.
Well, right, but if that's the thing that gets them conversing, then that is the thing that they need.
Well, so in that way, I guess it is a beautiful thing. It's something that I never got. Because for me, this crazy far out stuff is much more fascinating to look up and to read about, and to. Well,
this is our sports. Yay, sports! This is what we do. This is our water cooler talk. So
water tower talk.
We've had water tower talks. We have, yeah. That's another beautiful thing about us, is we can have these conversations about nothing that actually are about something or everything. But we still have like nerdy conversations.
You've been following from the very beginning, right?
Oh, yeah. There's episodes where we talk about like water towers and stuff and the math behind it, and Neil deGrasse, and just we're nerds. It's cool.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, yeah.
Dude, I know, with the bands and how much weight displacement, and I geek out over math. It's cool. I'm all right with it. Yeah, I've grown to love myself.
You were saying something so like inert. You wouldn't think there's physics in a water tower.
There's mad physics in a water tower.
But there would have to be. But I'm just like, you don't think about that kind of thing on a day to day.
Of course not.
Of course, Neil gets his hands on it, and suddenly it's like,
he gets like into it too.
Some deep science going on here. Like,
I've seen him talk about it a few times, and every time he was like, "Whoa, easy, bro, pull back." Like,
you're talking to my guy all wrong.
I know, right? Come at me again like this. Stab me with a soldering iron. Yeah, no, that's what he does in water towers. But those are the kind of conversations I like to have, because whether it's about a water tower, or it's about emotions, or about being a better community person, or we're all about understanding and growth, and this is a great platform for it, which is just, it's been great for us which is why we have so much love and respect for it. And apparently it does for others too, that's what we've always wanted, I think.
You know, I'm still thinking about Neil deGrasse. And I'm like, that conversation that you showed me with the one with the interview with the water tower, that just proves to me, and that was one of the things I think we were talking about with having guests on, is that like the guests that you bring on, you don't necessarily have to ask questions related to their profession. Because we're not about that, right? We're about seeing people as individuals. Like you're not a car salesman, you're not a mechanic, you're not a doctor, you're just a person that happens to do that for money.
Yeah.
Right? What do you do for a living? Right? We had that conversation.
Well, right. Well,
that's viewed differently in other countries. That they'll tell you about how they maintain a household or their farm and their family,
care for their community, or
nothing to do with how they're bringing money in. You know, they're talking about how they live.
Well, because that's the component that makes it different is the fact of like what they value.
It's all about perspective.
Yeah, it is. Well, it goes right back to the thing you were just saying about sports. I don't get it. You don't have to get it. That's what they do. That's how they get down.
Yeah, again, it's about perspective.
Because again, as long as y'all are talking to each other, that's what we want. Let's all talk. Let's do a little kumbaya, hands across America. You know, let's make it love, brother.
Well, I mean, I like the idea of anybody maybe listening to the two of us stretch our brains and think about like the oddities of the world, the possibilities that maybe it's stuff that they've always kind of maybe wanted to bring up in conversation, but never felt comfortable enough. That maybe this is the kind of outlet that makes you realize, okay, there's other people out there that are maybe just as loopy as me that, you know, get stuck in these little, what do I say? I like to play the
thought experiment.
The thought experiments.
Right. Which, I mean, and so after you brought that idea up to me a while back, I've actually been doing a little bit more of that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, well, it's because just like we do here, where, you know, we have these conversations, it stimulates us to have even more conversation. Because there's things we'll talk about, and then like 6 months later, we'll bring it back up. Like somehow or another, it always comes back around, that's always that funny part, because that's where we get the whole "I'm telling you" thing is. Where we're just like, yeah, it's, you know,
I'm telling you, with the echo.
Yeah, Biz Markie. Yeah, it's a Biz Markie component to Intergalactic Beastie Boys, and he's doing his spiel at the end. He's like, I'm telling you, with the echo, I'm telling you.
This is just, you know, it's a generational thing.
I think it's a Beastie Boys thing because everybody loves those guys, and it's a Biz thing. I love the Biz, man. And so, but that's what we are. We're just that kind of people.
Super educated. I'm smarter than stop.
But to us, it's having that conversation and bringing it back around again. While we think it's funny, because we always say the again makes it funny, but it also brings it back around again, which it gives it purpose. It gives it meaning.
It really does. What was the joke you said? Like, I got caught whacking off by my mom.
Oh,
again.
Yeah, the again makes it funny.
It's the again that makes it funny.
Yeah. You can say something painful and sad, and it's just like, oh, but when
it's just painful and sad. But if you say the again,
I've always enjoyed the idea.
Emerald, right there.
They say every joke has to have a little bit of pain and a little bit of funny, or like, you know, humor in it.
Well, yeah.
You know, and that to me, the again is the funny part, because then you can say something that's really sad, and then if you just say again with it, then it just makes it funny, because the again makes it funny.
It really is terrible when you think about it, that comedy is suffering.
Well, some of the best comedians have suffered the most.
But then again, life is suffering. So, but it's all in how you look at it.
It's perspective. Agreed.
It's all in how you look at it.
Yeah, it comes back to it in that sense. Agreed, man.
I choose to be mellow as much as I can. And sometimes that's not easy.
Many times it's well, that's why my favorite joke is I asked the Lord for like give me patience, right, to the universe or whatever. What are the powers to be would be. It was just, I put it out there. It was just like, you know, I was like, hey, I could use a little bit more patience. Could you help me with that? And it's like, you know, shortly thereafter, I had a daughter. It's like, oh, we got jokes? Is that what's happening? We got jokes here? I say patience. I get it. Okay, yeah, we'll talk later. That's great. Thanks.
So that's, wow. Yeah, that's exactly how it works.
Yeah, be careful what you wish for is that kind of a thing.
You'll get it. Yeah,
but you got to earn it, man. You got to earn it. You can't talk the talk. You got to walk the walk. And I think that was my bigger piece about us trying to do stuff, because, you know, while it's funny for us and, you know, we enjoy doing it, there's a purpose behind it, and it really is that we feel that there's going to be that one person somewhere that listens to some episode at some point for like a 2-minute component of a conversation, and it's just that's going to make the world a better place. I mean, that's the hope, right?
And the truth of it too is some of these things we joke about on the surface have their own backstory that has its own suffering attached to it.
Most likely, I mean, we're trying to make fun of it
because we haven't always. I mean, let's be honest, we haven't always been. Hanging out together. We had a couple years in between where we just kind of drifted. We had our own thing going on, and
life happens.
And at some point, we just reconnected again. It was almost like we would just hit pause, and then we hit play again. When we come back to, I don't know.
Well, I think we've actually done that twice, but we still were always together at some point somehow, or just still connected. And that's why I like all of our conversations have literally just been like a conversation that just never stops. Like it just keeps going and going and going.
You're just getting a little snippet of it, really. That's
right. Well, true. Because we can be taping ourselves doing phone calls. You always say, because even some of those conversations are just really in depth and amazing.
I mean, I think I was only saying that in the one time because it was like the whole conversation was in context to what we're doing here. So. None of it was actually personal on really any level. The couple of times that I'd mentioned it, I said we were literally talking about producing this show. Like the entire conversation, like what day we're available or what we're going to do with the format tonight or...
Yeah, whether it's a personal conversation, business conversation, like anytime we talk, it's going to happen.
And my only point is some of it struck me as it could be silly.
Well, it is.
It could be funny to hear.
Because we're lighthearted and we laugh at ourselves.
Could make a good segue, conversation between the two of us on a telephone.
On the telephone?
On a telephone.
Explain it to him.
Yeah, I didn't want to say cell phone. Mobile phone.
Yeah, the mobile.
A phone. Do I?
Well, I mean, yeah, because I'll do it when I'm in the car. I'll like hands-free it, which is, safety first. Yeah, remember your shoes and the safety first. But yeah, We'll have a business talk. We'll have a personal talk. It'll just be a quick check-in, and all it's just an hour later. Like that's just what we do.
Yeah,
it's like programmed in us at this point. I think it's hilarious because that's just apparently that's how we roll.
Yeah, well, it is tough because I got to keep an eye on things now because I was used to just kind of letting it. It would just stretch on for in some cases like 2 hours.
We've had some really
2 hours.
Yeah, well, because that was always the core of what I always wanted was to have an open-ended, unedited conversation. I mean, this is straight live. Like, this is how we do it. We don't chop it up later. We don't like remix or anything. We single recording, one take. This is what it is. This is how it is. This is how we do it. That's important to me.
So
it keeps it honest.
I was saying I wanted to ask you about something really odd, unexplained. About if there's something you remember from your childhood, but there was something I wanted to share. I'd actually written a piece, but we're not going to read tonight. This
is not open mic.
I'm trying to think when I was, so I was born in Massachusetts. So I was a little kid up till the age of, I think it was around my 7th birthday when I moved here. So when I was a little kid, we had a Cape. Like a Cape style, Cape Cod house. What do they call that? I don't know.
I'm not an architect.
Well, it's a much different layout from what I'm used to living in suburbia. It's a little different. The way the rooms are kind of arranged. That you have like what is it? Kitchen, master bedroom. Family room, all that stuff on the lower level. And then upstairs, it's just 2 bedrooms.
So more of like a vacation style home in a sense. Like that's your typical would see.
The 2 bedrooms are at the peak of the roof.
Right.
So the shape of those rooms takes on a certain quality.
Gotcha.
Where I actually, when I laid in bed at night, what I was facing was a cut of the ceiling.
Like, pitch of the section of the roof that's actually pitched.
That actually faced me.
Right.
And there was something particular about it. And I don't know why. This always sticks with me. But
yeah, I remember the story because we've talked about this a few times.
It's something that, like, it happened. And I remember it was a regular occurrence because I remember, I want to say I was at that theta age. I was perfectly in that, like you were saying.
You were truly just open to the knowledge around you.
3 or 4 years old, somewhere in there. Perfect age for this. So to this day, I don't know if I was meditating, but whatever. I actually reached a point at that time where I enjoyed going to bed at night, because I would stare up at this section of wall that, like I said, it had a drop. So it was parallel to my head against the pillow, let's say. So if I looked up, it was almost like a long screen.
Well, yeah, because I remember in this conversation prior before where I said it was almost like a movie screen where you could like see things or be projected on, right?
And what I did as a kid, it was a meditative technique. I didn't know what I was doing at the time. I had no idea. But there was a section, just that section that dropped there, where it was that flat surface. It had a checker pattern on it. Like it was a section of wallpaper on it that was red and white, and it was just a red and white checker. Like very basic. And it was only on that section. Everything, the rest of the ceiling was white. So it was just like, for me, it was always a focal point when I laid in bed. I'd always stare right at it. And my meditative technique was I would just make the colors flip-flop in my mind until it actually became a visual occurrence. Like it was, this is meditation. I have no idea what I was doing. I was 3.5, whatever.
Is this like one of your earliest memories as well, or?
This is a pretty early memory. So I would do this thing to the point where the red and white squares would flip-flop so quick that it became just like a fuzzy screen, like you'd see on a TV after the signal went out. That I just see it would just go to a fuzzy screen, and then I don't know if it was just coming from my imagination, but I would actually see I would see very, very large, filling the whole screen, like a portion of a battleship basically floating into view. I don't know why. I mean, to this day, I have no idea where that came from, but I could even see like white lettering, like typeface coming up, like I'm telling you, like all on this like screen. It was all imagined. I have no idea. This was what I was doing as a kid, apparently.
So almost like old school movie news feed where it's like it would be putting up data of like what was going on. It's like right now our soldiers over and then just like that's more the type like that was.
It felt to me more like mission objectives, but none of the letters were. It was almost like an alien language. It wasn't something that was legible for me.
Oh, so almost like what do they call them? Like the old stock exchange things where the ticker tape would come around with like and just like print out the fortune cookie strip,
like some kind of alien shorthand. I have no idea.
Yeah, but yeah, shorthand too, because you would speak in code with shorthand as well, because it was all just because then you didn't have to transfer as much information as well as you also could kind of
I'd see this on the screen to the point where like the fuzziness is now. It slowly disintegrates to the point where the picture is actually crystal clear. I can see sea mist coming off the front of the bow. I can see sea mist coming off the front of the ship. I can see seagulls flying around.
So very descriptive.
And to the point where it becomes so realistic. And this is what really had me hanging on. This was the pinnacle of the whole experience. Was at some point I would get into such a state where I would actually see tiny little crystalline starships that were like transparent. Like the whole thing was transparent to the point where you could see tiny little people running around manipulating stuff within there.
Like in the ship?
And to the point where they'd go by me and I'd see them waving. Like, I don't know where this came from. Am I correct? I don't know. Well, so this is probably.
Let me ask you this.
Only after one head contusion.
So let me ask you this. So the movie The Butterfly Effect, right? Ashton Kutcher, where he would like read the journal and touch that memory and like go there. Would you say it was similar in that kind of regard, where it felt like it wasn't even so much that you were witnessing it, but you were also in that place or on that plane? Because you're saying they're waving at you and stuff.
It was a full-on hologram. And it was like, I don't know if it was self-induced entirely or if something was trying to speak to me or whatever it was. It was a very peaceful entertainment. Now, quite possibly, at that age, in theta state, as a young boy, I was just completely open, you know, and in a positive frame of mind that was all self-created. I have no idea. To this day, I still wonder what that was all about, but
past life experience.
It was the most amazing experience. And I want to say these things, like if you were to look at like one of those model airplanes you'd build as a kid, like about, maybe they'd be maxing out at that size.
Like about 1.5 feet. Yeah.
But like all different crazy shapes. Like you're talking about spacecraft, right? I mean, so
I don't know. You're talking about it. You're telling me.
They could be all different. You know, some of them like your standard, just like solid rocket shape. Some of them had all these little bubbles coming off to the side or whatever. But everything I could see in fine detail on the surface of these things, because they were flying like in and around and past my field of vision, like right in front of me. It was, to this day, I just still wonder.
Like, did I actually witness that, or was it just like all imagination? Was it
did
I make that picture in my head? Was it a past life experience?
Can I recreate that?
I don't know. What's the movie Explorers, where they all have the same dream and then they put it together and they find out it's like a microchip so that they can build the propulsion system and everything, and the bubble that keeps them sealed off so they can go into space and meet the aliens, right? Maybe it's something like that. I don't know, dude.
I don't know. I mean, like I said, I to this day, I still wonder. But that's one of the things that, for me, that's kept me going for years. That's just
question
the
stuff. The
thought of that is just so awe-inspiring that it makes me want to question everything. And that's not the only thing, as you well know, but that's one of the things, like from a very, very young age, like I said, one of my first memories.
Well, yeah, because we've like, again, we've talked about that before. Like, you've touched on it a few times, but never to that degree of.
Because I always want to know, like, does somebody else have that weird, like, thing that they remember from childhood they'd never been able to explain?
Yeah, did anybody else have this dream where the dude totally like waved at you? Was just like, "Hey, what's up, little buddy? All right, okay."
I mean, we're talking, like, just to put this in perspective, I'm making hand gestures, which does no good on the microphone. But I mean, we're talking about like seeing these. What did I say? Like your average, like, I don't know, foot long to 18-inch,
1.5
long. You know, spaceship. Basically, but the entire thing is translucent, and they were all different colors. Like each one had its own like main color, but like this one could be like a raspberry Jello color. You know,
so
as it's going by me, and everybody on it, it was just like a faint trace you could see, but they were all the same color as the ship, and I could see them traversing around. It was just I don't know.
So I just got a vision of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, when you get to see the smaller crafts come down before the bigger craft comes down. You know what I mean? Like, so like different shapes and sizes and colors and
yeah.
You know,
or like batteries not included.
Dude, I just got that in my head too, for real. Yeah.
Anybody remembers that?
Oh, dude, that's such a good movie. That's so dope.
But that would actually be that's pretty close in perspective that I'm talking about, size wise, because I was a little kid, so. Yeah, you're talking, I mean, I want to say, in batteries not included, and none of them were really much bigger than
those ones were tiny.
Like a foot, if 10 inches.
No, they were like 6 inches, and maybe if they had their arms out and stuff. So, yeah, no, they were they were smaller craft.
So, relatively around that.
But a little bit,
that size. But we're not talking about.
So if anybody has ever had this experience, to contact him. Wink, wink. I don't. No.
I mean, I don't question that I'm insane. I know that everyone's a little bit insane.
I think you're lucid. You're very lucid. You're also loose. Hey-o.
Well, nobody who's truly insane actually thinks they're insane, right?
So
it's not even a question.
Well, so
I am the most straightforward thinking person there is. You guys are all crazy.
So
which by definition means you're right? I mean,
so that's the thing to me about science, is because it's not fact, it's what's provable on a consistent basis. And if you get enough people in the same room that agree that this is crazy or that's crazy or this is a hormone imbalance, or it's just, we don't know. We just do with a certain degree of, knowledge or consistency and output, that it's like, all right, we have a very extreme belief system. So yeah, dude, but
like, Bodo, at what point do I go from visionary to tinfoil hat? Well, or is there no difference? It's just whatever the history books.
Well, and to me, it's like, why do you get to choose in that? But yeah, so to me, like, psychology has always kind of said, it's like, just because others think you're crazy, if for some reason you can actually have a understanding and if you're not being defensive, if you can actually accept and believe in, and to me that's being lucid, because yeah, anything's possible, and that's the thing is, so I mean, you don't get to choose, you don't get to tell me, but if you're going to be defensive about it, that's where psychology kind of starts to come in, because if we can have like precursors or indicators where it's like we can now predict your behavior, they kind of say like, all right, now that's cause for saying, okay, you have this disorder or this dysfunction, or, and I'm like, no, it's not.
Talk about like pre-crime jurisdiction of the police force and
yeah. Well, but that's profiling.
Become
Well, and so yeah, to me, it's you gotta. So I mean, if you base it within that kind of mind frame, then yeah, you can. If someone says you're crazy, because what you even said yourself, what's that Jimmy Stewart or whatever with Harvey, where the guy comes to check him out and say that he's crazy, and he like winds up taking the sister away or whatever.
So if you've never seen it, it's what I don't know what year that was. It's a very old movie.
Yeah, 54, 48. I'm too old. It's black and white.
The main character has a best friend who's like a 6'4" tall rabbit.
Harvey.
Named Harvey.
It's Harvey. Yeah.
Who's a gentleman that he goes drinking with. And the whole time, except for I think like one or two parts in the movie, you actually physically see him, and it's not for very long.
Yeah, it's been so long. I think so. It's very brief, but yeah, it's been very long. I would put it to like Donnie Darko, right? Because he had the rabbit too in that one. So I always kind of, but like the original,
the whole time you're waiting with this, whatever the opposite of suspension of disbelief, thinking that he's a really nice guy, but he must be off his freaking rocker, because he has a friend who's a 6 foot tall rabbit, and nobody seems to have seen him.
Yeah, it's your imaginary friend, but maybe he's on that other plane and you can actually witness him because you're using that part of your brain, or there's, you can tap into that frequency, or right. But yeah, so that's why I'm like, to me, you can't just come in and be like, you're crazy. But with our psychology platforms, if we can kind of predict, and it pushes you, because a lucid person, they're not going to be defensive. They're going to be like, well, yeah, I can see where you're going from that, but here's the deal. They're going to rationalize it out, because that's a natural.
I actually watched, if anybody has watched that movie, I actually watched that movie from beginning to end. I wasn't sure if I was going to watch Harvey. I watched the whole thing, this old school, like all black and white.
It's really enjoyable.
What was the name you were saying? It's
Jimmy Stewart.
Jimmy Stewart, same guy from It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he plays this character that he's very fun loving. He's
very likable. He's very honest, jovial,
extremely likable,
very intelligent, comprehensive. I mean, he's just
loves to talk to people.
Yeah,
loves to listen to him. I mean, like there was this whole. So the whole movie is basically, it pretty much opens where, what is it? I think his sister is accusing him of being off his rocker.
Yeah, a little bit on the crazy sauce.
Because he's out at the bar 3 to 4 nights out of the week,
talking to this giant rabbit,
claiming that he's playing darts and drinking pints with a 6 foot tall rabbit. And she tries to have him committed.
Yeah.
So the I'm not even worried about a spoiler. This is a very old movie.
Well, dude, I already said it. Were you not a part of that part of the conversation?
Well, no, I'm just going to lay the whole thing out. But that he
was there to see if he was crazy, and he's like had such a great conversation with him. And
well, yeah, and the thing is, the sister, because she's so uptight, she's the one that ends up getting thrown in prison. So it's like, really, who's the crazy one? Because he ends up making friends with everybody he touches, because, well, it's just that's the way he is.
He's that kind of guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's very likable. It's a good movie too. I mean, it's a great perspective. That's what I like about it, is just imagination. Having that perspective, being able to have that outlook. Like,
well, there was one I think I was trying to tell you before too, is that there was one particular scene in the movie that stuck out for me, and I would say the entire movie was designed for that scene to be there. Like, that was, for me, that was the focal point of the entire movie. Was there was a very short part where I think he had stepped outside of the bar to have a smoke. And this was kind of showing you the first time he met Harvey. And when he has a conversation about it, he's talking about living a certain lifestyle where you're not. He's like, you can choose to be, like crabby and mean, or you can just choose to be nice. And he's like, I tried the former. It didn't work out too well. And I like that whole Harvey thing. I don't know if, like you said, like that was a part of him or his imagination or something that just kind of kept him going. But that he was perfectly happy just being him. His sister was getting on him about not having a job and not doing this and not doing that. But it's like, he was just being him. And look, it was amazing how much, like when you watch the movie as the course of it goes on, like you end up making friends with like the most important people in town because you're just open and honest and, and fun loving and respectful. I mean, that was a lot of it, was just being respectful.
Yeah, I think it was a great piece where it's just it shows you which foot you should really be putting forward, and they do it in a jovial, polite manner, and for I think a movie of its time, because again we got a fact checker on that, but from its time to have that kind of perspective even meant that you had to kind of question the norm. We as humans don't like change, so definitely back then there was a whole like, no, we should. To me, that came across as like a rather controversial film of that time. Not like truly
Definitely
like in your face, but
yeah,
dude, it's an alternate thinking and something that I think still stands true today. So yeah, because you watched it a few times and told me, and that got me to watch it, and yeah, same thing. I mean,
it's there's something about it that's just there is a timeless quality to it, and
it really
and one of the things that I would say that doesn't necessarily come across in the modern day cinema. Doesn't necessarily. I'm not saying that it doesn't pop up here and there, but I'm saying that there's something very timeless about certain pieces, and I think there tends to be more of that in the older.
Yeah, dude, I'll say Charlie Chaplin,
where you really
because you had to.
Well, the focus couldn't be on special effects. The focus had to be on dialogue, on character development, on.
Dude, Ben-Hur. I mean, come on, dude. Yeah, the 10 Commandments, the original, not the, I give you these 15, 10 Commandments. Yeah, no, not the, but yeah, because they had to, right? Because you didn't have much. We always have this conversation about old school radio, where it's like they had to take that, piece of wood with shoes and like tap, make it sound like it. Take a pot and a pan and like scrape it, clink, 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 make it sound like you're in the kit. Because you had to paint that word picture. You had to get that idea or image out, and you had to do it in the manner.
Or was it they'd have like that big sheet of aluminum and they just whack it with like a wooden spoon?
If you want to do like thunder and lightning, they'd be like doing washboards and what? Yeah, dude.
Yeah. Or what was that? Like the mouth harp or something. You get that.
Yeah, because you had to. It was necessity if you wanted to get it out there. But
it's just like that. The attention to detail, the creativity, and I just always found that fascinating. I do like some of the old school radio shows.
I do. Well, yeah, and again, because it was raw, it was pure, and that's why there's definitely stuff that comes here and there. But when it's so second nature, when it's so 23 seconds ago, it just, right? It's you get, there's a lack of importance or joy or appreciation for it. It becomes lackluster. It's commonplace. What is it, Back to the Future, right? Where he's like playing the gunslinger game. And he's like, you have to use your hands? It's like a baby's game.
Yeah, it's like a baby's, yeah.
Yeah, dude, because that's that perspective. But, it's to any like old heads or something, like, dude, I'll play some Duck Hunt.
Right? You look on his face, he's like, what?
Gunslinger, yeah, with quick shot. There's so many of them. Dude, I loved all those because you can do it with you got the rifle, and it's perspective on that. It's.
I just love that whole series, the Back to the Future series.
It does work well. But
like, I've seen this as a rerun.
Yeah, dude, what do you mean rerun?
A couple times.
Oh yeah, but that's the thing. So going back to the whole idea of why we have these kind of conversations is because we can have that perspective. We can be open-minded to it. We can be a part of that, and that's what I think is like super great. Because we can start where we're kind of talking about that, and here we are, rolling it over to Back to the Future and such. But
I just watched it yesterday.
It's timeless. It's timeless. It's a classic.
I was home doing some stuff, and I just put it on in the background.
Dude, you can totally white noise that one. You really can. 1 to 3. You really can. And that I think that speaks of its its awesomeness. It really is. But
And you find yourself like quoting along with it as you're walking by. Like,
did you know the scene? No, dude, I was I think it was even earlier today. Like that happened. It just like bing. It was just flipping through. I was at someone's house finishing dinner, and it was just like it's like, and there it is. Like, no, I'm not watching. I'm gonna get stuck. I'm out. I
found myself waiting. There was a part in the first one, and I don't know why this always sticks with me, but there was a part in the first movie where was it Christopher Lloyd?
Yeah.
Where Christopher Lloyd is he's up on the top of the clock tower, right, making the connection.
You're right.
And it was the sound that came out of his mouth that cracks me up that I was waiting for when he goes to plug that in and then realizes the other end came undone.
I know. I know, right?
Like, I couldn't even do it, but it just cracked me up every time I heard it.
Well, he was the bad guy in Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, that's true.
People forget about that. That's but because he was kind of crazy, right? That's what people would think. They would say he was crazy. Same as with Nick Nolte. Nick Nolte's a little off his rocker. Gary Busey.
I don't know. There was always something lovable about Christopher Lloyd, and it probably for me from childhood. It goes back to Taxi.
Well, was it? I mean, even all right. So let's talk about crazy in perspective. Jim Carrey. We talked about him earlier. Same deal. People looked at him when he started going to the Emmys or whatever. He was just like bombing weird questions and statements. And, dude, I think that was rough to watch. Man. It was rough.
It's rough to watch because everybody else doesn't get it. That's why it's rough to watch.
Well, and
I think he's a genius for doing it.
But I mean, I don't know. I get it, but I don't. I think there's a different way to do it. I can appreciate it for what it is.
There is, but you got to understand he's human.
Yeah. Well, and that's
I think to some extent he was getting kind of annoyed with it all, which is understandable. Like, he's human. Like, he's really kind of amazing, I think.
Well, and we're all still trying to make sense of it. So, I mean, that's why I'm like, perspective. People say you're crazy. Like, dude, don't listen to that crap. You got to listen to yourself.
You can't. Because, I mean, we were talking about before, Robin Williams. I mean,
we've talked about him a few times.
I want my eyes well up every time I think about it, because so many of the...
When you say a sad clown?
Yeah, but so many of the groundbreaking, amazing pieces of comic material have come from the movies that he's produced, and we no longer have that. So, shout out to Robin Williams.
Yeah, much
amazing,
love, for real. Yeah.
Much love. Amazing comedian, but that just... Yes, sad clown. The reminder that sometimes the people that we think are the funniest are actually going through the most difficult,
Usually, because they're trying to hide from it. That's why they do it. It's deflection. It's a distraction.
Well, and what do we say? I mean, humor, comedy it's a depiction of suffering. I mean, that's when you really boil it down, and it's, yeah.
Yeah, I think most of the comedians will agree that it's the ones that have suffered the most or have like the craziest outlandish, like they're the funnier ones because they kind of have to laugh at it because they're like, well, that's all I got left now.
Well, yeah, and that the funniest moments of your piece are the ones that cause the most blood, sweat, and tears.
Well, that goes back to what I said earlier about the whole, the way your perspective about things and making a mistake and being humble about it as opposed to having a victory and being all arrogant. I want to fall on my face and then laugh at it. I don't want to laugh at somebody else do it. I mean, it is kind of funny, but it's only because I've done it several. I'm kind of klutzy, I'll be honest. I'm very athletic, but still kind of klutzy.
Well,
I'm like a giant, like Clifford. My paws are too huge for my body, and it just like gravity takes over.
One of the ideas that it's tough to remember, though, myself included, is the idea that say you're playing a game. Ultimately, the idea is that you'd like to win. But
oh yeah, right. Well, but what's your perception or definition of winning?
Well, I mean, do you win this game?
Is it based on points?
Do you win this series of games? Is winning the game being able to play with this series of players that you're playing with that give you the kind of competition that you need to make you better?
Yeah, you were talking was Jordan Peterson's thing that you're winning is getting invited to come back and play again.
Right, exactly. But even to a further extent, losing helps you learn. Winning doesn't teach you anything.
Yeah, what's the one? You don't learn anything by winning?
You don't learn anything by winning.
Yeah, if all you did was win, you would just think all you did was win. So that when you actually lost, how would you handle that?
Well, the point is, winning doesn't make you better. And I'm not saying there aren't plenty of people out there that even after they get a win, they don't let that carry them. They're literally pushing even harder. Which, yeah, you should do that. But the point is, it's losing that really teaches you, oh, that's why I can't do that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Or
humility, it humbles you.
But I mean, even to some extent, it may be learning the rules behind the rules, or learning why we don't do this, or sometimes that is so much more important than getting a win, because it's like that now enables me, now that I'm in that frame of mind, something just clicked, I'm going to win a lot more games now.
Well, yeah, when it's not about the money, when it's not about the ego, when it's not about bragging rights, or when it's just about doing it to do it, like same as doing this show, when we do it just because it's like, dude, we're going to do this anyways, we might as well record it. It's the thing that needs to be done, and it's beautiful when it's expression. That now is art. I love that stuff.
And there is something about a competition, and that's, I guess, something that sports bring, but
I always say camaraderie.
One thing that always impressed me about amazing athletes is that when you really get down to it, the really amazing athletes, the ones that really stand out historically, are the ones that are constantly challenging themselves. They're not competing with other people. They are physically, but they're competing with themselves.
Yeah, and only themselves.
To the point where you can see it on their face when they make a win, and they're pissed off because they're looking at all the mistakes they made during their 100-meter dash. They're looking at all the mistakes they made during their, pole vault. No, I dropped the ball, the pole way too early or way too late here. Like, they're always thinking about how they can improve. Like, I could have done a much better jump this time. I could have done a whatever it is, that it's losing that in a way challenges you to push harder.
Well, and that's why I don't like competition. I like camaraderie. Competition is like, I'm better than you. Camaraderie is like, I bested you. Tomorrow might be your turn. Any given Sunday kind of a thing. Because then, winning is being invited back to play. Well, if all you did was win, why would anyone else want to come back and play with you? So even if you're just like that person that's always winning, because I know plenty of dope people that are like winners, and they give as many opportunities to others as possible to be in that same realm or be better than. And it's a good camaraderie, which you can call a competition if you want, but I think it's more of like, hey, I'm going to try to beat you this time just because hopefully I'm the winner, and then you got to beat me, and whoever's the best today.
Well, you remember when we used to play pool all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Like way back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
I was never like you were. We talked about you were league. I never really joined the league, but I kind of played around with a lot of the people that played in the league, just for fun while I was hanging out at the pool hall.
Oh yeah, you played with all the big boys and girls. You did.
Yeah, and I wasn't great, but
no, but you only played with the big people where it's like they knew what's what.
Right, and
but that's your perception where you're like, I always lose, so I don't think I'm that good, but you were actually pretty good.
Yeah, I was halfway decent, but I guess that's the point that I'm trying to make though, is that I wasn't worried, I wasn't concerned about getting a win.
You just being invited to play was the win.
Well, that was a big part of it. Was like, because I was a younger kid coming into an mainly older audience, 18 and older, and I was much younger at the time, but.
Yeah, for them to be like, hey, do you want to come play Iraq with me? You're just like, wait, me? Like, are you?
Oh, for real?
Like, it's like dodgeball, and all of a sudden they're pointing at the big kid in the back, and they're just like, wait, that guy? Like, yeah, that dude. I want. Like, me? Really? Yeah. You took it as an honor.
I never had a problem with losing because I always figured that always gives me more room to improve. That always gives me something, because there's always a lesson to be learned from that. There's always. I don't, like you said, I don't want to win every time. That would be boring. I want a challenge. So in a way, losing repetitively with the same person, like you might not play 3 in a row every time, but it's like when I come back to that hall, I'm looking for you. I want a challenge. I'm not going to play somebody I know I can beat. Unless I'm getting ready for league play and I want to.
Yeah, right. I did this myself, coming back at it, because I've always been like a decent pool player in that sense. But yeah, coming back at it, like I got back into it and I wanted to re-challenge myself. I would lose a lot. I joined a literal section of the league where I was going to be last placed always. And for the most part, I did. But by the time I got to like my third or fourth season of playing only the best of the area, now all of a sudden it's like I'm 2 positions out, 6 positions. Like I actually started to join the ranks. I started to become a better shooter because I challenged myself. So yeah, man. That's an important thing. I agree. And I think that's something I probably enjoy a little bit more about what we do, because as we evolve us and this show and everything, like how we do stuff, we have to better ourselves. We have to be aware of these things. We have to be willing to try more and be more honest and more expressionative, and to really put that out there in hopes that others are going to do it.
Yeah, there's no correct way to do this thing. If it's anything other than being honest and forthright with yourself and in your communication, and really just be yourself.
Yeah.
And all this is about is just being ourselves and
Hakuna Matata.
Having the crazy what ifs, and like, now everybody's going to know my strange vision I saw when I was like 3.5 years old.
Bro, this is Tree of Trust.
But that's my whole point, is like, if people don't talk about these things, like, you're never going to.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody else had that crazy experience or something similar.
Well, but even if they didn't, who cares? It's the fact that we're willing to talk about it. So if they had a weird experience or something that they or two are like, I feel like this is weird and I kind of have the courage to talk now because of you.
Yeah,
awesome.
Don't be afraid that the world thinks you're crazy. Just embrace it.
Think of Harvey or us.
There's something that makes you different. That's what makes you beautiful, right?
Totally. We're all different. We're all beautiful.
That sounds like it might be a quote somewhere, but
I'm pretty sure. Copyright. Oh no. Yeah, no, it's possible. Yeah, well, so yeah,
solid.
Well, this is what I love about us, man. We have conversations. There's always a nugget of gold or knowledge in there somewhere. And if not, then at least we were entertaining for ourselves.
Well, it's all about us. No, it really isn't. It's not about us at all.
I know that I've said it before. Dude, I love hearing myself talk. Dude, we replay ourselves. We listen to it because we want to learn. So, going back to that thing, dude, we even do it, because you have to, because you want to be better. So
I like listening to conversation. I don't necessarily like listening to my voice, but yeah.
Well, I like what we do because there's truth and honesty and there's humility. We're humble in our approach, and that's always just been our thing, because we've had that's what we do is when we converse, is just the fact of that. It's just like, even when we were kids, this is what I think, this is what I feel. I'm gonna be honest about it.
But I just to end this off, because it looks like we're
oh, it's that time.
Yeah, it's that time. But
usually as we're getting into it, it's time to go. We're gonna be here again next time. You're gonna be here next time. Hopefully, bring your friends. You should bring your friends. We should all get together.
Listening parties. This would be like the X-Files back in the day, where everybody just remember that? Everybody would gather at someone's house, whoever had the better TV.
Well, yeah, or, whoever's mom had, like, the best snacks at that point. Dude, she totally just went to the store. Like, dope. We got some purple stuff. We got Sunny D. Yeah, no. We're the Sunny D. Come back and get some more of this. Yeah, fam, it's been dope.
So great to have you guys here. Well,
yeah, Chef D, Mr.
We're still enjoying the conversation. Hope you are too. This is Mr. Gemini signing out.
See you later, fam.
Peace.
Peace.